Welcome on this fabulous Toronto evening to your brand new Queens Quay. I'm Mark Wilson. I'm the chair of the Waterfront Toronto Board of Directors, and I'm the MC today. And let me start, first of all, by thanking all of you for coming today. I know that many of you have been waiting for this moment. It's finally here after 2.5 years of construction, so thank you. Let me also remind you that Queen Street is fully operational. It is a street. The Martin Goodman Trail is a bicycle trail, and amongst other things, not a pedestrian path, and there's a streetcar right-of-way. So they're active and being used, so please, for your safety, stay off of them. Let me tell you what's going to happen the next hour. First of all, you're going to hear from our funders who made this project possible, the governments, from Waterfront Toronto, who built it, and from representatives of local residents and businesses who've been patiently waiting for this new street. And then we, and I mean all of us, all of you, are going to help wave this enormous 650-meter ribbon. It's going to stretch all along this wonderful new street. We're going to cut that ribbon, officially open Queens Quay. So that's tonight's program. So let's get started. Before I introduce the speakers, I just want to say a few words. Red granite, over 2 million pieces of red Canadian granite have been laid on this waterfront. And you'll see the granite underneath where most of you are standing right now. It marks that new 7-meter wide pedestrian promenade. That's one of the principal features of the new Queens Quay. And it symbolizes that the street, it's functional for cars, but it's also for people. And most of that granite actually sits where there used to be 2 lanes of quite dysfunctional traffic. The street works better today than it did before. This red granite's going to be seen all around the waterfront. It's a symbol of our new waterfront. What are you guys doing to me here? It ties together the central waterfront, where we are our East Bayfront projects. It takes all the way from Portland Slip in the far west by Bathurst Street, all along Queens Quay, the WaveDecks we're standing on, Harbourfront, Sugar Beach, all the way east to the Water's Edge Promenade at Sherbourne Common and beyond. This granite marks our waterfront, the entire central waterfront. And it pulls together a much bigger idea and a bigger goal. We want to make Toronto's waterfront one we all be very, very proud of. And not just for its own sake, although that's very important. The Waterfront project, it's a crucial part of Toronto continuing to be one of the most attractive and economically competitive places in the world. It's an advantage for Toronto as we compete globally for talent and capital. That's what our goal is at Waterfront Toronto, the new Queens Quay. You know, we gave actually a piece of granite to each of our government partners who joined us on November 16th, 2012 for the official groundbreaking. And they're all here back today to officially open their boulevard. And I want to very much thank them for their support, for their belief in the vision for Queens Quay, and their belief in the vision for the wider waterfront. Our collaboration amongst all the 3 governments and Waterfront Toronto shows what we can all achieve when we work together, and the result is an amazing legacy for the city. On that day, November 16th, we promised we would be open in the spring of 2015. We're here today. We made a promise, we kept that promise. Queens Quay is open. Queens Quay belongs to everyone in this city. It's the city's urban cottage dock. It's the city's front porch. Right here is where the city meets the waterfront. It's where our city began. It's in many ways where its heart resides. But it's more than that. The waterfront is our front door. It's our face to the world. Think of all the pictures, the postcards. What do they shoot? They shoot back to the waterfront. The waterfront is actually quite central to our image worldwide. It's our global calling card, and it has to be the best place we possibly can make it. Thank you all for your support and your patience through a very complex, very challenging project. Let's enjoy our new waterfront. And now I want to welcome a very good friend of the waterfront who's been a great supporter in a long line of great supporters of ministers from this administration. Please welcome the Honourable Joe Oliver, Minister of Finance and MP for Eglinton Lawrence. Minister.
Good afternoon, everyone. Another great day for Toronto. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the introduction. Minister Murray, Mayor Tory, John Campbell, ladies and gentlemen, welcome everyone. Je suis très heureux de célébrer l'achèvement de la revitalisation de Queens Quay. I'm really happy to be here to celebrate the completion of the Queens Quay revitalization. This 1.7 kilometer stretch of road has been transformed into a really impressive gateway to the waterfront. Queens Quay is now a modern, attractive, economically vibrant destination for local residents, for Torontonians, including those in my great riding of Eglinton Lawrence, people across the GTA, and of course, thousands of tourists who will soon be here to enjoy the Pan Am and Para-Pan Am Games. I know this undertaking was extremely challenging and complex, so bravo to everyone involved in its planning and in its construction. This area is now a prime waterfront destination that rivals some of the greatest waterfronts in the world. And I want to thank Waterfront Toronto for its leadership on this and many other projects in this immediate area. Nearly 1 year ago, I participated in the official opening of the Corktown Common, a wonderful centerpiece of the West Don Lands. At first glance, it looks like a simple urban green space. But Corktown Common is more than just a park. The West Don Lands are nestled in the floodplain of the Don River, and Corktown Common protects 519 acres of land from flooding, including the West Don Lands and Toronto's financial district. Grâce à ces projets comme celui-ci, nous rendons notre ville plus sécuritaire, plus accessible, plus accueillante et plus amusante. De plus, la revitalisation du secteur riverain de Toronto s'avère un moteur économique considérable. Through projects like these, we are making our cities safer, more accessible, more livable, and just plain fun. As well, the revitalization of Toronto's waterfront is proving to be a significant economic driver. Our government, along with the provincial and municipal partners, each invested $500 million in Toronto's waterfront. This $1.5 billion investment has attracted an additional $2.6 billion in new private sector development. It has also led to the creation of thousands of good, high-paying jobs. As Minister of Finance, I'm delighted to see this kind of return for Canadian taxpayers. If you look across Queens Quay, you will see a number of condos, the new Chorus Building, the George Brown College Health Sciences Campus, and the modern Pan Am Athletic Village. In February, I participated in the announcement of a new Waterfront Innovation Center. It's expected to house about 2,000 employees and act as a catalyst for additional job creation in the information and communications technology sector. But that's not all. These sites are adjacent to impressive open spaces like Sugar Beach, Marilyn Bell Park, Ireland Park, and Corktown Common, just to name a few. These federal investments in open space enhance Toronto's quality of life, and they're a result of the vision of my predecessor, the late Jim Flaherty. He was a true friend of the Toronto waterfront. Waterfront Toronto is just another example of our government's unprecedented investments in infrastructure. If anyone recognizes the importance of infrastructure, it is our government. And that is why in 2007, under the leadership of Prime Minister Stephen Harper, we launched the $33 billion Building Canada Fund. And through this plan, Through this plan, we supported more than 12,000 infrastructure projects across Canada. Our new Building Canada plan, now $80 billion, is the largest and longest federal infrastructure plan in our nation's history. And in this year's budget, I announced our new Public Transit Fund, the first dedicated federal fund in Canadian history. As many of you know, yesterday I joined the Prime Minister and Mayor Tory for our government's announcement of $2.6 billion for the Smart Track project. It was a great day. It was a great day for Toronto and for the GTA. This and other investments are helping to reduce commute times for families, enhancing our economic competitiveness, and strengthening job creation. De plus, dans le cadre de Queens Quay, nous aidons à créer un secteur riverain dont les Torontois pourraient être fiers. And here on Queens Quay, we're helping to create a waterfront that Torontonians can be proud of. So, let me once again thank everyone involved in this project, leaders who had the vision and the determination to make it a reality. I'm proud of the role that our government played in its part for the people of Toronto. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, and I just wanted to acknowledge again the incredible contribution the federal government has made to public space and open space in Toronto. I also now want to welcome someone who knows Waterfront Toronto well, that we've worked with closely over many years, Glenn Murray, the Ontario Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Welcome, Minister Murray.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister Oliver, Mayor Tory, and I want to congratulate John Campbell. Sadly, in the last year of his work at Waterfront Toronto. Can we have a round of applause for him? I think we could not have gotten here without John and our friends Mark at Waterfront Toronto, and all of you, because it's you who pay taxes, volunteer, and vote, and we're really just giving you your money back. You know, we like to make a big deal about that, but you know, we all should remember who we work for and where the money came from. But to me, this is really important, because this is an incredible vision into the 21st century. You know, I got some bad news when I got up this morning that, well, we're still about neutral with no increase in greenhouse gas emissions in Ontario. And you know, Ontario has met all its commitments. The two big areas where over half our emissions come from are buildings and transportation. And while industry has reduced those, and you and I have made changes in our life that have brought our greenhouse gas emissions down, our emissions from buildings and transportation are up 5 megatons. And all our other efforts to reduce them have been offset by that. So we got to tackle transportation. But it's not a terrible thing. It's a wonderful thing. Look at this street. This is a low-carbon, climate change-friendly street. You know, I don't own a car. I live on a bicycle, and I buy local food, and I do all of those kinds of things we should do. But you know, I just live down the street here. Most of us live in a neighborhood where it's hard not to drive a car, where so much of what we build is so auto-centric that those of us who want to change our lifestyles and live in a more sustainable, comfortable way within Mother Nature have a trouble doing that. But look at how this street is apportioned. If you're a transit rider, you've got your piece of the street. If you're a cyclist, you've got your piece of the street. If you're in a wheelchair or a walker or needs a little more friendly environment to get around, you've got your piece of the street. So I think our challenge is, can we get that LRT line all the way down so when all those new condos and public housing projects go up, people don't have to worry about making the decision, do I do a car? Can we put electric charging stations in every building so I can drive a car that doesn't emit? But what we've produced today is our big challenge as governments is to make sure that this street is not the exception and the only beautiful, complete street in Ontario, but that every single street in Ontario sees this as their role model street, and we build communities for everybody and streets for everybody, because a low-carbon economy isn't wrecking our economy, it's improving our health and our quality of lives, and we owe you, Ontarians and Canadians, for that, so thank you for paying your taxes and voting.
Thanks, Minister Murray. In case you were wondering what portfolio he held, we've had a very busy year at Waterfront Toronto. As Minister Oliver was mentioning, we've done a lot of events, groundbreakings, and openings, and our next speaker has been a familiar and very supportive face at every one. Please welcome His Worship John Tory, Mayor of Toronto.
Well, Mr. Chair and ladies and gentlemen, and in particular Minister Joe Oliver, Minister Glenn Murray, CEO John Campbell, and I want to say I'm here on behalf of the members of Toronto City Council and one of my colleagues, Joe Cressy, in whose ward we are present, and this beautiful waterfront is present, is here as well. And Joe, you're, well, I'm welcoming him to his own ward. I shouldn't be doing that. And I will say I'm here as well on behalf of one other member of council in particular, and that's the Deputy Mayor, Pam McConnell. She is off, as she said in an email to me, being a nana. Her daughter is having a baby as we speak, and so she's becoming a grandmother again. But there's no one that has more heart and no one that has more passion for the waterfront in Toronto than Pam McConnell, our Deputy Mayor and the ward councillor for just down the way here. And so I'm here on her behalf as well. Now, I try to be honest with people, and when the media just ask me what's the most exciting thing about the fact that we're here marking the completion of Queens Quay and the opening of Queens Quay, I had to be honest and say it's the end of the construction. That's the most exciting thing. And I can tell from those who live here, those who work here, even those who visit here, that is something that's exciting. But I said at the same time, it's like being either at home or in a restaurant and having a good meal. And sometimes you're sitting there thinking to yourself, why is it taking so long? I'm hungry. But when it arrives and it's done right, then you feel good about it. And this is something where it took some extra time, and quite frankly, it took some extra money. But at the end of the day, it has been done right. And I won't repeat what Minister Glenn Murray said about something that's very special here, where you're able to have people, you know, coexist together, as it should be in a balanced transportation system and a healthy city, where you have transit and cycling and pedestrians and cars and trucks all able to go about their business on a very important street, and it's to be done, it is done in a way that is beautiful as well. And so I just want to acknowledge that this is a great example of the best of what government can do when they work together. You have all three levels of government who've worked together on this, and you have the Waterfront Corporation that's helped bring it together. And I want to say, as somebody who comes from the city government, that we've had a great team at City Hall, and our most senior public servant, John Livy, is here. He's our acting city manager, and they've worked hard, as well as the Waterfront Corporation staff and the federal public servants and the provincial public servants. This is how it should be every day on every project, that we can combine together all these modes of transportation and make this a livable home for people who live and visit and work here, and that we can make sure all the governments are seen to work together, because to go along with what Glenn Murray said, we all work for you, no matter which level of government we're at, and we all subsist on the same monies that you send to government. And so I think it is important to acknowledge that, and to acknowledge that it is a complete street, that it is a great waterfront for everybody, and to acknowledge that it's going to be a beacon for further investment in jobs, as Minister Joe Oliver said. And again, the federal government has been a consistent, steady contributor to everything you see here over 30 years, more than 30 years. Back since the early 1970s, under governments of all stripes and under the current government, they've continued to invest. And Joe is telling me a little known fact, and we'll see how up-to-date people are on their numbers. 17 million people visit the waterfront every year. That is the second most visited place in the city. Who knows what the first one is? Nope. I hear people saying the CN Tower. It's not. Any other guesses? It's the Eaton Centre, believe it or not. I wouldn't have guessed it. I have trouble processing that kind of information. But when it's as important as it is, and it's only going to grow in importance over time, it is something that is to be treasured. It's the only waterfront we have. And I want to just say thank you to the other governments who partnered with us in making this happen. Thank you to Waterfront Toronto. And thank you to you, not just as taxpayers, but thank you to the people who live down here for being patient and for your perseverance in seeing this through. I think, like that meal in the restaurant, it's worth it when it gets done, because it's beautiful, it's special, and it's something to be repeated, as Glenn Murray said. Thanks very much.
Well, we've been talking about the people who live here and the people who make a living from this area. And so we wanted to very much welcome Kevin Curry, who's the chair of the Waterfront Business Improvement Area. We've been working with very closely over the past couple of years, all of whose members have been suffering through the construction, and we're glad that we've been able to bring it to you as promised on time. Thank you, Kevin. Come on.
We're here today to celebrate the grand opening of Toronto's revitalized waterfront. And I'd like to welcome you to our party on the promenade at the Red Path Water Festival at the same time, with parades, entertainment, and activities all along Queens Quay, all weekend long. As you can see, the revitalized waterfront includes a spectacular new pedestrian promenade and waterfront connection to the Martin Goodman Trail. The Waterfront Business Improvement Area has been an active part of this community project since 2007, starting with the Central Waterfront Design Competition, from the first wave deck installed at Spadina to the grand opening of the new Queens Quay. The revitalization has been a solid collaboration between local businesses and Waterfront Toronto. The result is a main street that will foster economic vitality for our merchants and commercial tenants for years to come. One of the earlier challenges that the street faced was a disconnect from the north and south side. By removing 2 lanes of traffic and creating this public space, the more intimate connection will prove itself through continued business growth along Queens Quay. The construction over 3 years has been a challenge for local business, but we have survived, and this shows commitment of the local business to the waterfront community itself. At the same time, we have welcomed new businesses such as the Amsterdam Brew House, the Couture Vision, many coffee houses such as Williams Cafe, gelato places like Lick-It Gelato right across the road, and of course, RBC's and Cisco's new office tower hosting almost 10,000 employees. This demonstrates that big vision brings big results. Business has already been returning to the neighborhood, and it's reflective in the positive feedback received from local merchants. We ask the community and visitors to make a special effort and support our local businesses. We have something for everyone from Bathurst to Young. While at the party on the promenade, enjoy activities, entertainment, including buskers, dance demonstrations, live music, art on the water, stand-up paddleboard, which I believe they're also going to be doing yoga, something interesting, lessons, great food, and most importantly, experience the launch of our Waterfront Artisan Market in HDO Park, which showcases an eclectic collection of unique vendors, including finely crafted jewelry, one-of-a-kind gifts, works of art, scrumptious baked goods, and fragrant body products available all weekend long. We plan to make this a regular fixture on our waterfront every weekend starting next spring, and actually bring to life some of those visuals that we've seen for so many years in the original design intent of this street. The Waterfront BIA is a community-driven organization dedicated to promoting, enhancing economic and cultural vitality of the waterfront area. We welcome 17 million visitors annually with a service area population of over 65,000 people and growing rapidly, 68% of which the residents are all under the age of 45. Unlike most Toronto BIAs, the waterfront is both a full-service residential area and major tourist destination. And as was mentioned, next to the Eaton Centre, the waterfront is the second most visited neighborhood of the city and ranks second in every visitor category: domestic and international, pleasure and business, first time and repeat. Thanks for joining us for this grand opening celebration. Please stick around and enjoy the rest of the festivities at the Red Path Waterfront Festival, ranging from Dance Pan America Style, Dock Dogs, Championships, Toronto Wine and Spirit Festival, and I believe on Sunday, the Pride Beach Party, and the event goes all weekend long. So stay around, right, and embrace this street. I'm so happy to see so many people here, and Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kevin. I know we'll be sticking around, and I hope most of you will be as well. Well, Queens Quay, as Kevin's pointed out, is a tourist destination. It's a place for business, but it's also home to thousands of people. Street's their main street. It's their front yard. It's their backyard. And they patiently waited as this neighborhood, this street has been revitalized. So it's very important to hear from the folks who live here, and I wanted to welcome Ulla Colgrass from the York Quay Neighborhood Association to represent the residents.
Oops. Oh. What else can go wrong? This is clearly a very important day for our neighborhood, but it's even more important for the city of Toronto. Millions of visitors flock to the waterfront for boat trips, for harborfront festivals, sunning in the parks and beaches, enjoying the sky and the lake. And we are now adding this exquisite boulevard created by the best international urban designers under the auspices of Waterfront Toronto. It's made for people, and it is a gem. The residents have been invited to take part from the beginning, selecting the designers, being consulted about transit and traffic, building materials, design of benches, and every tiny part of this complicated project. It took 3 years to build, while people stepped gingerly through the construction and drivers snaked along different routes every few days. My son reminded me that we must thank the hundreds of workers who plied their trades under the most difficult conditions, fighting the high water tables. Fighting the high water tables that turned the subsoil into soup, and yet managed to upgrade the infrastructure to last us many years into the future. The crews continued to work in flimsy tents in -20-degree weather. Without their skills and determination, this boulevard would not be here. What did residents learn from this? Well, we learned patience, for sure. And we were frankly surprised that city building of this class was possible here. Waterfront Toronto has raised the bar with what is the largest urban renewal project in North America. We are happy that 3 levels of government are supporting it, and we thank everybody who worked so hard to create our beautiful boulevard. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Ulla, and our thanks to all of the residents who've been engaged in the endless meetings and endless workshops, which are part of what we do to make sure we build the right thing for the neighborhood. I've been asked to remind folks who are going to be manhandling the ribbon to move into position as we're going to be wrapping up the speeches very shortly. Now, our last speaker here is someone who's been very, very close to the project from the beginning, someone who's made it happen, got it done. Please welcome John Campbell.
Thanks, Mark. It gives me great pleasure to be here today to help open Queens Quay with all of you. As the CEO of Waterfront Toronto, the opening of Queens Quay has always represented a milestone for me personally and for our corporation and for our partners, especially the community stakeholders who've been such strong supporters of the project. Now, I've always believed that the revitalized Queens Quay was the project that would allow the public to truly understand the potential of our revitalized waterfront. Now, it's easy to forget now what Queens Quay used to look like only a few years ago, a forbidding, dreary, and uninspiring street, dysfunctional for pedestrians, cyclists, and cars. You know, Queens Quay was designated on a spacing blog recently as one of the 10 ugliest streets in North America. A well-earned accolade, I tell you. It was grim. Our vision for Queens Quay has been to turn it into a great street, a beautiful new face for Toronto and its revitalized waterfront, the new front door to the city, and one befitting a dynamic, prosperous Toronto that is holding its own in the global marketplace. What we celebrate today is an inviting new public space that is not only beautiful, but also functional for people's bikes, transit, and cars. A new, beautiful gateway to the lake. The revitalized Queens Quay offers grand civic spaces, enjoyable new public realm for residents, businesses, and visitors alike. Now, I invite you to think about the future and visualize the revitalized Queens Quay build out to the east all the way to Parliament Street. A great new spine connecting our waterfront. Yet to come. Bringing to life a vision like this, such as the transformation of Queens Quay, requires a lot of people. People with passion, vision, dedication, and skill. And I'm very proud of the numerous design awards won by the project. They represent confirmation of the efforts of a talented group of people who have brought Queens Quay up to global best standards. And I want to recognize the original design team, West 8 and Detroit All-Superior, particularly Adrian Goose, right here. Also John Hillier, its award-winning vision for Queens Quay. I'd also like to acknowledge the role that Roger Detroit had in helping us move the vision for Queens Quay forward. Roger's recent passing is a great loss to the architectural community, and we feel very grateful to have had the benefit of Roger's talents as part of the design of Queens Quay. I also wanted to recognize Eastern Construction, as Ula mentioned, and the many sub-trades and teams who work with Eastern for their diligence in managing this complicated construction project, including Aldershot Landscaping and the many craftsmen who installed more than 2.5 million of those concrete or those granite blocks that make up the promenade. I also want to thank our city colleagues and our own Waterfront Toronto staff for all the hard work and dedication to the project. And last, but certainly not least, my thanks to the community, to the Queens Quay Business Improvement Area and the residents and other users of Queens Quay. You have been stalwart supporters, showing patience and perseverance through the construction process, through ice storms, flooding, and many other unforeseen events. And thank you for your engagement in the almost 100 public meetings and stakeholder consultations held on this project, for your participation in our monthly construction liaison meetings, for your phone calls, your emails, your tweets. Your dedication to the project and your input into the process has made this much better outcome. And we could not have delivered this project on time, as scheduled, without your standing support. So thank you very much to the community. If there's one thing this project has reinforced in my mind, it's how fortunate Waterfront Toronto is with respect to the shared interests and collaboration we enjoy on all our revitalization projects with our government partners, community stakeholders, and our development partners. This collaboration has been and will continue to be essential in the future. Okay, so now let's move to the official opening. And as we unfurl the symbolic blue ribbon along Queens Quay, I want you to know that you'll be seeing this ribbon in many different artistic forms throughout the waterfront. We are donating pieces of the ribbon to a number of art and community groups: Harbourfront Community Centre, Harbourfront Day Camps, Friends of the Pan Am Path, Art Heart, and VS Artist Collective. These groups will repurpose that ribbon into their art program so that the ribbon has a life beyond today and will be well used. So finally, let me also formally invite you to stay around this evening after our official opening to participate in the opening of the Red Path Waterfront Festival. That opening is at 9 o'clock at H2O Park, and I hope to see you all there, and I encourage you to come down this weekend to enjoy the many activities that are planned. So